I think we'll see that. I thought their link-up play and the way they work together. It just reminds me of last season, Dad, how it didn't work. Do you remember with Alfie May and Stansfield? And it was just the nature of the way they play. Whereas this season, it feels like it's already coming together on game one.
They'll get better as well. I mean, they're only just learning how each other play so good as well. So welcome back to BCFC Royal Blue. Now, after the opening day fixture against Ipswich Town last Friday, Birmingham City now travel to Blackburn Rovers for the first away game of the season. We know that there's going to be over 7,000 Bluenoses there, and in this podcast, as always, myself and Matt are going to preview the game, give our thoughts and a bit of research on Blackburn Rovers, and as always, try and sort of think what the Blues team will be. So, Matt, it's our first away game of the season. We always love the first away game, don't we? So what do you think about going to Blackburn?
Yeah, it throws me straight back into Wickham away last season, Dad. But of course, there was only 1,800 of us going there, whereas this weekend we got 7,000 Blues fans going up to Ewood Park.
7,033.
7,033, apologies. And it's just going to be amazing. I can't wait. You know, Ewood Park actually is traditionally an away game we don't typically do very well. Do you have a wild guess at when our last win was there competitively in the league?
Oh, that's a good question, Matt. I don't know. I'd have to research
2013.
Wow.
So 12 years since we beat them competitively there in the league. However, things are changing. I think we're going to give them one hell of a game this time round, and can't wait, Dad. Really excited.
Yeah, and it's worth also mentioning, Matt, at the time of recording that we've both, us and Blackburn, have still got their Carabao Cup games there tomorrow night at the time of recording. So we're not going to make reference to those games because we're not clairvoyant. But
actually, that's a good point, Dad. Blackburn, at the time of recording, have theirs tonight. Blues have theirs tomorrow, so actually there is an extra day's rest for the Blackburn players. I'm getting my excuses in early.
Yeah, we don't need those anymore.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, Blackburn, if we go back to my memories of Blackburn last season, clearly we weren't in the same division last season, but they were one of those teams that did draw your attention because they had a good start. They sacked John Eustace, didn't they, when they was in the playoff positions, and then they appointed Valérien Ismaël, and he had a terrible start to his life as manager there, and they started tumbling down the table. But at the back end of the season, they made on a really good run and only just missed out on the playoffs.
The one space they missed out on.
Yeah. I think
I
think they were in the mix in the last day of the season. So, but I think it was a big if they got there.
And the season before that, they were down there with us going to the last game away at Leicester, wasn't it? I think they need a consolidation season, Blackburn, just settle the ship a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, because they seem a little bit all over the place. I mean, I'm sure their fans weren't complaining with the playoff push last season, but like, seems like Blackburn are a little bit of a not all over the place club. But I think they just need a season to stabilise things a little bit.
To do well, not
it's
so
unpredictable,
well.
isn't it?
It really is. I mean, everybody says that the Championship is unpredictable. I think they are the stereotypical unpredictable team, aren't they? As you know, Matt, they started off in their first game. They lost 1-0 at West Bromwich Albion, and you watched a bit of that game, didn't you? So,
I did, yes. I didn't see the full 90 minutes, full disclosure, but I did see a decent amount of the game. And it was a game of two halves for me. West Brom started really strong, really quick. I think they scored around the sort of 15-minute mark, and it really was. I mean, Blackburn Rovers fans, if they're watching this, they'll admit this as well. It was a really, really poor goal to concede. It was a long throw. You know, they didn't get ahead of the first ball. Second ball dropped. It's kind of a little bit of a thing, a little bit of a scramble, and he scores quite comfortably and easily. So they'll be kicking themselves at that. But in the second half, I actually think Blackburn had more control of the game. They just, in my opinion, were making the wrong decision. Sometimes they were shooting when they should have been passing. They were passing when they should have been shooting. The decision-making wasn't quite there. So I think, again, as the season goes on, Blackburn will be stronger going forward, but they didn't have that clinical edge in the second half against West Brom. So they had more of the ball, but they just weren't able to put the ball in the net or create any sort of clinical chances. And jumping back to the first half, I don't know whether you saw this, Dad. I'm sure Blackburn Rovers will jump in if they watch this video. They had a penalty shout, and again, it has directly split the world down the middle. A lot of fans are going Stonewall penalty, and a lot of fans are saying he dived, and it wasn't. You see him given, I'll say that. You absolutely see those sort of decisions given. And I was going to reference some players who I was impressed with and some players who I think could be a weak spot. We'll do that more as we go through the podcast and talk about Blackburn Rovers in a bit more detail. But overall, I don't think it was a bad start for Blackburn. I think they'll be happy with their second half, but they're definitely going to want to up that clinical edge and score a few more goals, definitely.
Yeah, and I think a team that finishes just outside the playoffs in any season, if they really want to progress, then there have to be changes to the team. So they have done a bit of business in the summer transfer window. So they've had a few ins and outs. So let's just, I'm just going to name a few players that have left and a few that have joined the Blackburn team. So they've signed a central midfielder, Sidney Tavares, from Moriaci for $2 million. They're a Portuguese team. They've also signed Axel Henriksson, an attacking midfielder from Gaias, which I think they're Swedish. Lewis Miller, a right back from Hibernian, and they paid 860 grand for him. Dion Deneve, left back from Cornic in Belgium. Ryan Albiusi, a right back also from Cornic in Belgium. And Sean McLaughlin, a centre back from Hull. They paid fees for every one of those players. In fact, their total spend so far is 5.6 million.
Decent
On those players. It is.
Yeah,
It
it's
is.
decent,
It
yeah.
is. When obviously you look at ours, we brought in more players and we spent a bit more. But most of our money's been on Kyogo, so it's Kyogo. I need
Who's
to get
that?
that right because a few people picked me up in the last podcast. So I started calling him Kyogo.
We always admit that our pronunciation on this podcast is
And I
terrible.
think as what I've noticed as well, Matt, you know, when you watch the podcast back after you've edited them, sometimes I'm saying things, I'm thinking, I didn't say that, but I'm clearly have. I'm watching myself, but I think when you're in natural conversation, you don't really think too much about your pronunciation, but that's my excuse. Anyway. Just a few players, actually, just before we move on, Matt, there's a few players that they've sold as well who have moved out. They sold Joe Rankin Costello to Charlton for 870 grand. Danny Barth, centre back, went on a free transfer to Derby. Torres Dolan, who I've mentioned before, I rated him as a good right winger. He's gone to Espanyol on a free transfer. Andreas Weimann, he went to Derby, attacking midfielder. And there's a few others that they've shipped out. Some of them obviously would have been end of contract, but I think they've in terms of like the balance between what they've bought in and what they sent out, they've clearly added and they've paid for it as well.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned about a right winger leaving because their biggest, in my opinion, their biggest weak spot against West Brom was on the right wing.
Ryan Hedges.
Yeah. He was really, really poor. Really slowing the game down, not really getting. The right wing and the left wing for me is supposed to be dynamic, quick passing, get past your man, get the ball in the box, be creative. He just seemed to slow the whole play down for me, Hedges.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I personally wasn't a massive fan of him, but they did make a couple of good subs. There's a guy called Augustus Cargbo. Again, apologies if my pronunciation isn't quite right there. He was playing on their left. He came on as a substitute. I think he could start against Blues because I think he looked really good when he came on against West Brom. Really quite a tricky, nuisancey kind of player. And then a right back called Lewis Miller came on as well.
Yeah.
Just looked like a proper, solid... when I say annoying defender, those defenders that kind of get under your skin when you're the opposing team.
Yeah.
I can picture him being one of them. But yeah, those were two for me that came on and looked good, and Hedges in particular looked really poor. But their manager's really pragmatic. He plays to the team's strength. Kind of again reminds me a little bit of Eustace. Plays to the team's strengths, and they somehow get them playing really, really well. And what those sort of managers do, I quite admire. But I think they will try and play a high intense style of football. They will try and play high possession, but as we know with Blues this year, Dad, our intensity and our press is just as intense as what other teams can give. And I think that's where we've improved so much. We haven't been able to match teams' press. Prior relegation, prior Knighthead taking over, we always lacked that bit of fitness, that edge, didn't we? Whereas now we can go toe to toe, and they can be intense all they like. We are going to match them just as much all over the pitch. So because we're away from home, I think this could be quite an exciting game again, quite fast paced, quite end to end, and I've no doubt they're going to give us a game, but I think on paper we do have enough to win this game, in my opinion. It
depends on what they do. I mean, I was really surprised, and we mentioned this in the post-match Ipswich podcast we did. If you haven't watched that, then you can see that in our video library. That Ipswich changed tactics, which really amazed me, that they just came and slowed the game down, and I referred to it as actually adopting League One tactics in the first half. And I wonder, as the season goes on, whether teams will adopt their tactics against us. So even though we research a team, I think a manager will look at what a team and the way they set themselves up, and he might adjust their tactics. So we might see some unexpected tactics from opposition teams.
What we're playing to our hands, Dad, is no home team wants to be on the back foot, do they? The home is where you're supposed to be strongest. It's where you've got the crowd, you're familiar. No one wants to be a back foot team when they're at home. So again, I think when you come to St.Andrews, first game of the season, 30,000 people in there, it was noisy, it was intense, it was hostile. I think that naturally led towards a bit of a defensive shape because you don't want to give too much away. Taking a point away from St.Andrews is obviously better than losing all three, and that's what they managed to do in the end. So I think this will play into our hands because Blackburn will want to come at us. They're the home team. And I think you're right. We will see teams adapt their strategy from time to time against Blues, but in my opinion, I can't see that this weekend because they're going to want to win in front of their home crowd.
It depends on the manager as well, because some managers like their team to be out of possession like John Eustace. We'd have like 30% possession when he was our manager, 35%.
Only 2 or 3 chances a game, but you bury him, don't you?
Yeah, it's like I read a stat somewhere. Bristol City beats Sheffield United 4-1 with something like about 35% possession.
I know.
So it's what you do with the ball when you have it that's important as well. But you are right. I mean, their lineup, they adopted a 4-2-3-1 against West Brom, which is exactly the same formation that we have.
It's almost become the universal formation now, hasn't it? A lot of managers go 4-2-3-1. It's a very popular formation because it's very versatile.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I think that it is because you can adjust that based upon when you're in attack, and you can transition to when you're in defence as well. But there's a few players to mention. Obviously, Lewis Travis is obviously a really solid midfielder. He started against West Brom, and they've got that a Japanese lad up front, Asashi, as well. Mm-hmm. He looks really good, and he'll be really tricky as well.
To give the Blues fans a bit of a comparison here, Dad, Lewis Travis is their captain, and he's their Water. He's their break-up man. He's their disruptor. And then they have Tronstad as well. Yeah. And Tronstad's more Paik. He's more the passer, the playmaker. Yeah. So they have 2 decent centre midfielders as well. In my opinion, Water and Paik are a step above. But there's no doubt that's going to be a very good midfield battle as well.
I think because they adopt the same formation and they're going to have the same style of players, it's going to be who wins their battles, really, isn't
exactly.
it? And, Ryan Hedges, you mentioned out on the right as well, and Deneve.
Honestly, I'm not just saying it. I'm sure Blackburn fans are watching
he was on there, right?
Yes, he was really poor.
Yeah. And Hyam and McLaughlin are their centre halves as well, so they're pretty very experienced centre halves for Blackburn as well. But their strengths as a team, they do try a lot to play with width as well. Get the ball just like we do. They control the game where they can in the opposition half, which basically I think most teams now, when you do your research on their strength, that's all about the press. A lot of teams try to press and make mistakes, force mistakes from the opposition, just like we do. Try and cross wherever they can. That's something for us to cut out. They're not really the most aggressive team for my research in there, but they're competitive, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
there is a difference between aggressive and competitive.
So as I say, they showed at the end of last season that they've got the qualities to be a very, very good team. A few weaknesses: finishing, scoring chances. They're weak at that. Avoiding errors and defending set pieces. They're classified for my research as being weak.
Those 3 errors are kind of what I described from them against West Brom.
Yeah.
Although is a long throw classed as a set piece?
I would say it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, because effectively it's a cross.
I didn't know whether a set piece meant ball on the ground. But anyway, either way.
It doesn't make any difference. Effectively, you'd say a long throw is a cross, so therefore it has to classify as a set piece.
And that was very clumsy defending from there at the back. And what I would say that going forward, because you mentioned they're not clinical in terms of finishing their chances. Again, I saw that against West Brom. They were making... It wasn't that they weren't clinical and they weren't this and that. In my opinion, it came down to decision making, and that will change and get better as the season goes on. So if they get that right, I think Blackburn could be a very decent team this season. I think it's a little bit of click in the final third for them.
Yeah.
And when they get that right, I have no doubt they're going to be a solid, as always, decently solid championship side. But
I think with some teams you can very quickly work out what they're going to do. Are they going to have a good season or they're going to have a bad season? Now, that can vary because, teams can change, but generally they set the stall out in the first half dozen games. And I think that's what we'll be looking at for them and for other teams, because they could, and I know this is an obvious statement, but they could go either way. They could go on a really bad run and end up, struggling mid to lower table, or they have the potential to possibly, make a playoff push. But we won't know until the season starts. And as we know at the time of recording as well, the transfer window's still open. I don't know what their finances are, but they've already spent nearly £6 million. So
good amount of money that is.
It is.
I didn't realise they spent that much.
Yeah, and every single player has actually sort of generated a fee to be paid. So they've clearly tried to back the manager. Again, it's a way as well. So the onus is going to be on them as a home team. But
and that's what you should play into our hands, in my opinion.
Yeah,
because they'll come at us.
Yeah, and I think that we have the capabilities of winning this game. But we saw on Friday night that games can be won and lost by the referee.
Absolutely.
As good as you are, that doesn't guarantee you anything, does it? So, very interesting game. Really looking forward to it, and I think it's a nice game to get early on as well.
But what I would say, Dad, just to challenge your comment there, you shouldn't be in a position where the referee can ruin the game for you. You could and should be 1, 2, 3 and up, shouldn't you? Before any bad. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that refs can't ruin games. Of course they can. I'm just making a point is don't rely on the refs.
No, that's a fair point.
But you know what I'm saying, don't you? You know.
Yeah. So if we'd have scored 2 or 3 goals, then
It wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah.
That's the point I'm getting at. However,
but again, you could say we would have been 2-0 up if the referee had given the
It's a very good point.
goal.
Yeah. And to be a complete hypocrite, he ruined the game.
not that we're bitter. We did our therapy session when we did the post-match videos. But
I'm over it. But
the point is you are right. We've got to be more clinical. We've got to put our chances away, and we've got to get leads. Even if there is an error by the referee, it's not going to make any difference.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's Blackburn, and normally when we do these pre-match videos, as we go through the season, we'll have more of an indication of the teams because we'll have their results and all that type of stuff.
It's hardest at the start of the season. Is always challenging because you're one game in, teams are still adjusting and adapting and finding their feet. But should we go into the Blues team, Dad?
Yeah, let's predict the Blues team then. So what do you want to do? Shall I start this one?
You go for it. Yeah.
Shall I do the whole back line?
Yeah.
Okay. Same as Ipswich.
Yeah.
Pretty much. It's going to be Allsop in goal, Asai Samuel on the right, Clara and Neumann, centre halves, and Cochrane on the left.
Yeah. And midfield and attack.
Do you want to do that?
Same as Ipswich. I think it'll be Paik and Iwata in the 6s. I think you'll have Stansfield in the 10. Damari Gray and Keshi Anderson on the wings feeding in Tokoga.
I think that based upon the Ipswich performance, I don't think it's given really Chris Davis much of a choice, really. You know, you've got to go on that because I believe that we know that Tommy Doyle was on the bench, but I'd heard that he wasn't very well.
Right.
And he may have actually been in line to start against Ipswich, I don't know. But I'd heard he had some sort of a virus or something, so that's why he wasn't at it or wasn't in the starting lineup. So it'd be interesting to see whether he brings him back.
Well, in my opinion, he wouldn't have subbed Paik or Iwata, so maybe he would have been putting Tommy Doyle in the 10. And I'm glad he didn't do that because Kyogo and Stansfield had an incredible relationship.
Yeah. And I think based upon the Ipswich performance, they've earned the right to start again, and they were fantastic, weren't they? So
I cannot fault a single Blues player from the Ipswich game, Dad. If I'm going to be really, really nitpicky, Allsop gave the ball not to his usual standard, and that's me being nitpicky. Apart from that little thing, I think everyone had an absolutely outstanding game. So, we do a little bit of preparation for this before we come to record these days. Now, literally, my note says same as Ipswich in terms of starting 11.
But I think if you, if you're a player and you've played well, you deserve to be picked again. Now it is down to the manager because he will, I'm sure Chris Davis is very tactical, very knowledgeable and very thorough. So he will do his homework on Blackburn. If he feels they've got a threat that another player could potentially neutralise, he might make changes up. But he can't. I don't believe he can drop players on the basis of their performance. So I'm just to reiterate the team that we both think and that started against Ipswich. Allsop in goal, Asai Samuel on the right, Clara and Neumann as our centre halves, Cochrane on the left, Paik and Iwata as the 6s in the middle. Keshi Anderson will be on the left, Gray on the right, Stano at number 9, and Kyogo.
Stano at 10.
Oh, sorry, and
Kyogo
and Kyogo at 9.
But they were kind of interchangeable anyway, and that was the beauty of it. They were
I love the way they
were
together.
playing off each other brilliantly. Yeah. So I think although Stano's in the 10 and Kyogo's in the 9, it is kind of between them a free license.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I think we'll see that. I thought their link-up play and the way they work together. It just reminds me of last season, Dad, how it didn't work. Do you remember with Alfie May and Stansfield? And it was just the nature of the way they play. Whereas this season, it feels like it's already coming together on game one.
They'll get better as well. I mean, they're only just learning how each other play so good as well. On the bench, I've got Beadle, Laird, Cashin, Bielek, Taylor Gardner-Hickman, Leonard, Williamson, Doyle and Dykes. Which is pretty much the same bench as well as against Ipswich as well. The only thing that we know at some point is that when the injuries clear up, we're also going to be able to introduce Fujimoto and the Duck as well.
Yes.
But
the Duck's a few weeks away, isn't he?
Yeah, and I think some of these players may go. We might see a few players leave, and that we can name 9 on the bench now. But with the starting 11 and 9, there's going to be more players than can be picked. So it's a great position to be in. But I sure that based upon the Ipswich performance, the players say, if I play well, I'll keep my shirt, and that's exactly what you want.
They deserved it.
Yeah. So I think that'll be the starting lineup, and we'll be in our new third kit
for
the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. Go on, Dad. You always ask me this question first, but I'm going to ask you the question first. So, score prediction, what you thought?
I've gone for Blackburn 0, Blues 2.
Straight 2-0 win?
2-0 win for Blues, yeah.
I've gone for Blackburn Rovers 1, Birmingham City 3.
Oh, you think they'll score? Okay. Yeah, but
I do. Yeah, I think they will score, Dad, because I think against Ipswich it has proven there are external forces outside of our control, like the referees and things like that. So, and being the home crowd, could be a corner, could be a scrappy goal. I do think they'll score, but I think we'll have enough to win this. So, Blackburn Rovers 1, Birmingham City 3.
Yeah, I don't think the brick wall will be breached, to be honest. But let's see how we get on.
I must admit, I can't see us conceding many goals this season, especially at St.Andrews.
Yeah.
But, they are. I mean, Neumann and Clara, let's just give them another shout. They're just immense, aren't they?
Yeah,
They're absolutely immense.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. But that's what myself and Matt think, and I'd love to have your opinions, Birmingham City supporters. If you're a Blackburn Rover fan and you've come across this podcast for the first time, or we always welcome comments as well from fans from the opposition team. All we ask is that the comments are respectful. There's no foul language or abusive behaviour in those comments. Anything else, please feel free to add a comment. So, as always, we hope you've enjoyed the podcast. And if you did, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. If you haven't checked us out on our social media channels already, then pop along to our X page and our Instagram page. And if you'd like to watch or listen to your podcast on Spotify, you'll also find us on there as well. And you'll see the handles appearing on the screen for all these channels right now. If you haven't subscribed to your channel and you'd like to, then press that big red subscribe button. And if you like notifications every time we put a podcast out, then press that little bell next to the subscribe button. So that's it for this podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. Myself and Matt will see you on the next one, all about Birmingham City.